Hey everybody, welcome to Pour Over Marketing. And if you're on here, you know it's me, I'm Rob. And then I have apparently my on-the-road co-host is Chelsea Burton Dunn, one of the authors from Writers Row. We're on the road at PopCon Louisville with Writers Row, and Chelsea somehow just keeps showing up at these things.
You know, I said I like to crash.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this very well. We've got music playing. We did a pour over yesterday from a panel room. This is a continuation.
Yeah.
We'll start there. We're at Hein Brothers Coffee, which Chelsea found. Yesterday we had sungras and something.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, it was the size of a restroom. It was tiny, but the coffee was great.
It was really good, yeah.
So this is my first sip to see if we like this one. Tastes like pumpkin pie. I got the pumpkin pie latte. I don't usually do lattes because I like to... actually, what I learned when we were in Portland and we were doing Coffee Palooza with Allie and Denise, we figured out that you do an Americano so you can taste exactly what's going on. If you get a regular coffee, it's good, but an Americano is like, this is what their brew is like. And I like to go to places that have their own roastery, their own brew.
Right.
But today I broke my rule because it said pumpkin pie latte on it.
It's hard to resist.
Pumpkin pie latte. So Chelsea, first question. This is your third PopCon. And we're going to continue. Yesterday we got cut off. We're going to continue that conversation. But before we do that, first of all, you having a good time with this one?
Yeah, it's good. I feel like each time I've gotten more comfortable. Like, obviously I've done other conventions solo since, my very first PopCon. But, so, it gets easier and more comfortable in just how cons work in general.
Was that first indie one, was that your very first convention?
Yeah.
Interesting, because we sit here and talk about the conventions and what to do at them a lot, but you were a newbie. So that's a good one, because I talk about it for people that have been doing it and then they're like, I'm failing. But you are still new. You're a year into doing this. Do you have any advice or any thoughts that you have for people that are dipping their toe in? Well, first of all, dip your toe in. There's one.
Yeah.
I blew that one. But go ahead. What do you think?
Well, you go into these things, especially doing something by yourself, going to a convention by yourself and having the booth by yourself. Don't go in there expecting to blow everything out of the water and make tons of money. It's about exposing everyone around you to what you're doing, and spreading the word in various ways. Have freebies that have your information on it to hand out.
That's key. Have your information on it, because I see a lot of people give out freebies. There's a woman that gave me a flash fiction yesterday. No info on it.
Yeah.
What good does that do me?
Well, that was a weird thing. So there was a convention I did a couple months ago. It was a horror convention I was at in Kansas City, which is where I'm from. And I was right next to another author, which was really cool, but we were totally separate genres, sub-genres, I guess. And he had a card and bookmarks, but they only had the art of his books, and they didn't have his name, his website, link, or QR codes, or anything.
All that branding stuff that you need.
Right. He had none of that on there, and so I was like, well, how do you even find him if somebody grabs those?
Right.
And but where I had, cards and bookmarks and things like that, people were like, can I take one of these? And I was like, yeah, but it's got my QR code and it has my name.
I love it.
And everything on it. So, if they pull it out at some point, they're like, oh yeah, I remember that girl. And
I can tell you from 11 years of doing cons professionally, number one, I'm a big fan of the QR code. Number two, the cards that have the information tend to stick around. I know that people say it's a waste of money doing business cards, and it really can be, because you spend the money on them if you spend a lot on them. If you buy Vistaprint, what, $10 for 500? Who cares, right? But like, I can think of one author, not one of ours, that I was talking to, and he was like, "Oh God, I hate doing business cards because I just feel like I'm wasting money. People just take them and they lose them, they throw them away." It's like, yeah, but if you have your information on there, and you have somebody like me, I collect them. They sit on my desk. They're in a thing. I'm always shuffling them around, and then someday, and it's happened hundreds of times, I'll go, "I want this off my desk." I'll write them a thing. "Hey, remember we met at this con? Just wanted to make contact. I know it's been a while." It's because that card hung around. You meet them and you talk to people. You see their cool artwork, their cool whatever, and you think, "I'm going to remember." I can't remember who I talked to yesterday. When I went to bed last night, I was thinking about the people I talked to, and I woke up today and I'm like, Good Times is on. I'm thinking about Good Times.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm old, so Good Times was a popular show when I was a kid. I loved all, like, Good Times and the Jeffersons, all the stuff that they are, like, black shows. I'm like, I didn't know there was a difference, which is probably a good thing. I have a funny story about that. Because I grew up in a house, my dad was a jazz musician, so I was around everybody, right? I never thought about it. I know that people say, like, "Oh, you know, when they say, I don't see color, I don't see," well, of course you do. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But where it's not ridiculous, look at the grass growing on top of that building.
I know.
Where it's not ridiculous is, so we go to see The Wiz. You know the movie The Wiz?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we went to see, before it was a movie, it was a musical on stage, which I'm sure it still is. But we went downtown Chicago and saw The Wiz. And my parents were always taking me to theater and stuff, always exposing me to stuff. So we go to see The Wiz, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing. I was probably, what, 8, 9? I was probably, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cool. And we're getting in the car, we're driving home, and I had to make my declaration. Someday, I'm going to be in that. That was awesome. There was an uncomfortable silence. And then they had to have the talk with me. You're not going to be in.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't understand. I didn't see it as a black show. I saw it as a retelling of Wizard of Oz, and it was super cool.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not just innocence, it's what I was exposed to and how it was talked about. I think more people are pointing it out now and making it a thing.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is that byproduct of, "Oh, but I don't see color." Well, no, you can see color, you can see differences in people, but you also need to see that everybody's human, you know? It's just like in marketing. I know we like to do demographics and segment things and say, who is my target? And yeah, you can have things that you do, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, if I have 3 different races walk up to the table and I'm talking to them, at the end of the day, they're all just people. Aren't you just trying to figure out their perspective? You could have 4 white people standing there. This one likes horror, this one likes romance, this one hates to read, and this one likes, I don't know, technical journals. Can you tell that by just looking at them? No, because they're just human beings. You have 4 black people walk up, they could like the exact same things. At the end of the day, everybody's just human. So in your marketing, it's good to remember that.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's good to segment and figure out, can I talk to a group a certain way? But at the end of everything, don't exclude people or make assumptions because that kid thought he could be in The Wiz.
Yeah.
You know? I know there's a little bit of a tangent, but it is something that I notice a lot. I'll notice people because when I was in sales, I would notice it. Probably why I sold so much is I just didn't think of it in those terms. An older person walks up, I'm thinking about what are their needs that would help them. if you always think of where the value is to them, you don't see race or religion or any of that stuff. It's all just people. What is your need? Now, if there is something in those factors that matters,
Yeah.
that's another thing.
But that's one of those things where, like, we were talking about targeting. We were talking about targeting, like, certain demographics, you know. So, like, I know technically my books are more targeted to, like, adult women. You
Yeah.
know?
Here's your target.
But, you know, there are several men who've read my books and like them. You know, like, and so it's
Absolutely.
not just, it's just that's the audience that most likely would like my books, but...
There you go. That's perfect. So you're putting your book out, you can go, okay, I'm going to try doing a Facebook ad. I'm going to be at Louisville, and I'm going to try and do a Facebook ad to let people know I'm at this con, I'm at this bookstore. And you target it. You make it within a mile of the thing, and then you start doing your demographic work. And I know that a lot of us go, yep, it's everybody. Well, it is. But for marketing purposes, you narrow it down. In your case, you know generally it's women. I bet you have an age group that generally buys your stuff. You might even have a financial situation, a religious thing. All these little slices you can make that you go, I'm not excluding anybody, I just know that 90% of my readers are this, right? And then you take your Facebook ad and you slice it down to that and you target them. That is a very smart way to do it, a very legit way to do it. You're not excluding anybody because even though you did that, I may not get your ad, but I might see your ad. It might pop through or it might be on my friend's thing, whatever. And I see your stuff. Now, here's an interesting thing. We had a real good conversation about this yesterday. And I want this to apply. I want you to apply this to what you do. I don't care what it is. Okay? We're talking books because we're author. I could also say for podcasting. Okay? Because that's what I was talking about yesterday.
Right.
But apply it to what you do. Apply it to how you reach out. We were talking about the importance of the book cover. So if we take your original covers, believe it or not, they kind of excluded me.
Right.
Because I would look at it and go, romance novel, not something that I pick up generally.
Yeah.
Chelsea has new covers. I know what her books are about. With the new covers, I don't go romance novel. I go, there's romance in it, there's werewolves. This looks freaking sweet. The other told me that like 80% was going to be romance.
Right.
Here's another thing I should just lay out there. I'm not opposed to it. It's like how guys are like, oh, it's a chick flick. Really? Because I watch so many chick flicks. I love them.
Yeah.
You know, it's if you don't have emotion, then you're shut off. You might as well have the emotion and enjoy it and go, oh, guess what? I experience love too.
Yeah, right?
But I'm not as into, like, I've read books where, you know, suddenly they're ripping their shirt off and the big chest guy. And, like, to me, it's like,
Right.
that doesn't connect with me as much. I'll read it. Not that I'm like, oh,
It's not
like,
a book that you're going to choose to pick up.
right, if he rips his chest off and an alien bursts through, I am all about it.
Yes.
So with the new covers, it opened your demographic.
Yeah.
I would still target the women, target the age group,
Right.
do all that targeting. But now, because the cover is there, it just expanded it.
Right.
A year from now, you may go back and look at who's buying my book and go, oh my God, it's 40% men.
Yeah. Well, it was with the new cover at that horror convention I was at. It was so, like, I had some of the first edition covers there at a discounted rate, and then the new covers, and I was kind of, people were like, what? I was like, oh, well, you know, you can get it for cheaper if you buy the old cover, but these are the new covers, and they were like, the new covers really should, like, give you the vibe of the book a lot better than old covers.
Definitely.
And they were like, okay, so then they read the back, and we talked about it, and it got more people interested in buying it, men and women.
Right.
And but I got rid of some of the old covers that way because then they're like, okay, well, I see the new cover, I get it, it makes more sense.
So they were willing to spend more because of the new cover.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to what the conversation was yesterday. We were talking about, okay, so Maeve, my wife, used to watch all those house hunting shows. Loved it, right? And I'd watch it with her, and it doesn't connect for me the same way. I like it, but not, if she wasn't home, I wasn't like, oh great, flipping whatever is on. I would flip it off. But there was one show that I didn't like to watch it. I just loved the concept, and I do to this day. It was called Curb Appeal.
Yeah.
The idea of curb appeal makes all the sense in the world. Now, they were talking about it like you got to clean up the front of the house so it looks really nice so when people pull up. And it's like, yeah, your book, you just changed the curb appeal. Our booth, there's a certain way we do it, a certain way we put our signs. It doesn't look like science, but it is. Erica's done this forever, so she's like, I know if we do the books this way, it will sell. Mouse, who's one of the authors there, they do it a different way. So when they were coming here, I said, well, here's how we're going to do it, but if you have ideas, we're always open. Mouse said yesterday, oh, this actually looks really good. Right. Because your curb appeal, you not only have to have your way you do it, but you have to look at every situation. Their situation with a 6-foot table with 3 offers, there's a different way you set it up. Ours, this big thing, is a different way you set it up.
Yeah.
And you have to be conscious of the curb appeal. Now, books, the cover. It's the first interaction people have with it. If you get that wrong, they are not going to pick it up, right? I know we say don't judge a book by its cover. Guess what we do?
Oh, 100%.
We do. Now, when we were talking about like segmenting races and that, yeah, don't judge your book by its cover, okay? Don't. You'll be a fool if you do. But for an actual book, I'm not going to judge whether it's a good book or not, but it does tell you whether they're going to pick up your book.
Yeah, if they're going to give it the chance to pick it up, look at the back, read the first page or so, or
Right.
talk to the person who's selling it,
It's
a
that
draw.
curb appeal.
Yeah.
I equate it like with podcasting. When we did our first round of shows, I did most of the artwork, right? And I looked at a lot of podcast artwork trying to figure out what to do. And this happened a lot, maybe the first 10 shows. I would make something like, that looks good. I'd put it up, and then I would see it on iTunes with the other shows, and I'd go, oh, ours either looks amateurish or it's not the right vibe. It doesn't tell what it is. And I'd go back and I'd do a redesign. And then what I found is after 5 years or so, I kept going back and I would do a new redesign because I'd go, how does it look on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? How does it look compared to other shows like it? And the thing is, I don't know other podcasts that do that. I've talked to hundreds of podcasters, and I can't tell you how many of them are like, they could just say the name of the show, that's all it needs. It's like, no, it's the curb appeal.
Well, if somebody new is scrolling through podcasts trying to find a new one, if that logo catches their eye and it's in a genre of podcasts that they're interested in, they're more likely to choose
To
that
click
one.
on it, yeah. This one looks like it's cool.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I don't care what you're doing. Look at what your outward face is. What is the first thing people interact with? So you're walking up to a house. First of all, if the yard is trashy, there's dog poo everywhere, there's a house by us that has like all these statues and half of them are broken. I'm not going up to that house thinking I'm going to have a professional interaction. I'm judging the book by its cover. Now, the people inside might be amazing, but outside of the house, no. And it's a true house, and they're terrible about like mowing their lawn and that. And I'm not one who's like, you've got to be perfectly. No, not at all. Our yard needs mowing half the time. But our house, people always compliment how like, God, it's so inviting and so friendly and warm in here, and like it's because of the curb appeal part of it. Maeve is an amazing decorator, so inside it's great, and outside we have done a lot to make it not standoffish, make it inviting, and we've looked at it. We go out and stand on the parkway and look at the house and go like, you know what? If that door was black, it would be better. And then we paint the door. Same thing with your business. Do you need to paint the door?
Yeah.
Right? Does it need a new coat of paint?
Yeah.
That could be a big thing. Molly was just at a restaurant helping out at something, and she was like sending us pictures. This restaurant was gorgeous at the time. She said, but you're not seeing what the customer sees. This is important. She said, if you sit at a table and you look around, the first thing you see is over here at the ceiling, there's wires that are not bundled and pushed back. Now the outside, I'm telling you, the interior was gorgeous, but it was at the seams, and it's what you see. You see the wires. You see the floor, or you feel the floor is sticky. You see that in the window well, there's dead bugs or something, where you're like, they're clean, they're trying. Yeah, but all those little things add up to, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going in. Now, this restaurant is clean. We know the people at this restaurant. We know how hard they're working at it. That, feel the customer experience. Experience their interaction with your curb appeal. Sit in the seat and look around.
Yeah.
We're in a coffee shop right now. Everything is very clean. And I don't mean clean, I mean it's clean. But I don't mean like we spray bleach everywhere. I mean clean lines. You can tell what it is. It looks great. Does every coffee shop have to look like this? No. But this, I don't see, do you see wires or a mop sitting in the corner? It used to make us crazy when we had our store. The kids that worked for us, they did a great job of like vacuuming and that, but then they leave the vacuum in the middle of the floor. We're like, you don't do that. Number one, a customer might trip. Number two, that's what the customer is seeing.
Right. They don't need to see the.
They don't want to see the vacuum and the wires and the.
They want to know it's clean, but they don't want to see the like evidence of that. How you get it there.
Right. Exactly. I know I'm talking about it in a retail sense, but look at what you do. Look at your book. Look at the cover. Are the wires showing? I can give a great example of that because I see a lot of indie published books, and I'll see like the cover will be like a little white along the edge because they didn't have it quite centered right. Now maybe it was the printer, or maybe it was them when they submitted the artwork. When I did the artwork for our book, I made it a white cover because I was having a hell of a time getting that seam to be precise. I wanted one of those white edge with the super tight seam, but it kept bleeding over. So I was like, if we make it a white cover, that eliminates that. So our cover is really clean and it looks attractive. I do have errors with my cover, by the way. I did not do it right. I did it right for an indie published book, but now that I know way more about publishing, I'm like, oh, there's like two things I would have added that would have made this look like a professionally published book as opposed to a homebrew. You learn.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I can go back and change that cover.
Yeah.
I have a publisher now that wants to publish it. So I'm not going to go back and change that cover. They can change the cover. So yeah, think about your curb appeal. That is really important. When we do Writer's Row, one thing that we do is after everything's set up, I don't know if you've seen this, but myself or Erica or Maeve, Val does it, you go out and you look at the booth, but we're actually looking for the seams. Can I see a box underneath? Because when you walk by, that's all you see.
Yeah.
When we did the very first one, we had a couple of authors that sat in lawn chairs right in the front. And they sat on their lawn chairs. It's like, that sends a certain message. Their boxes were under where their feet were. So at the front, you had the curtain, but you could see the boxes. I couldn't get them to change that because they were like, nope, this is how we do it, and this is great. And I was like, you know what, it's a fight I'm not going to have. But then they weren't invited back. And that's part of the reason is you made it look different than what we actually wanted to look like. Curb appeal matters. Curb appeal really matters.
I think it also is a big, like, I'm not saying constantly be standing, but being at conventions, I found if you're standing and people are more likely to approach you and talk to you
Yes.
versus sitting. And I, so if there's a slow time, of course, especially when I'm by myself, I will sit.
Oh, sure.
But then I'm popping up.
When
as
you
soon
see
as I
somebody
sit
walking
down.
by, you pop up.
Right. And it just makes it more likely that I'm going to have someone come chat with me or come buy my book or have a question for me or whatever. So.
And once again, it doesn't have to be about your con. It can be about what you do. If you work in sales, if you have a business and you're interacting with people, what is the thing they see? I do see that a lot. I see people at conventions sitting.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. I'm tired too. But you got to keep moving.
Yeah.
You're a shark when you're at these things. And sharks don't stop. You swim. You get tired. Okay, I can sit down for a minute. But as soon as there's chum in that water, you better be up and ready to grab it.
Yep.
Right?
Well, at one point yesterday, I wasn't at the booth very much yesterday because I was at a lot of panels.
Panel girl.
But I was at the booth for a minute and I was eating there wasn't very many people on our side, so I saw somebody coming up and I immediately stopped, got up, and went to talk to them because it was like nobody was there to talk to them. So that's what you just have to do.
Yeah. But at 56, my immediate get up is, they walked away. Damn it. Which is why I try to stay standing.
Yeah.
I sat down once yesterday, and twice during that time, I had to get up, and I'm like, I'm too slow getting up there. And if I pop up, it's like, that's not going to look good because you pop up and then you fall over because you're 56. So, yeah, that is key. So I walked the thing. I was looking for one of the vendors, and I noticed that I'm in the Artist Alley area. I would say 95% of them, that means only one, were sitting. There was an author that I got engaged in conversation with. She sat the whole time looking up at me. So I'm talking to her. I liked her a lot, but I'm like, I would have stood up and presented my book and talked. She sat. And I noticed that all the way around, people sitting. You know what I mean? But there was a girl. This is really interesting. So you go to these pop culture conventions, and you'll get a lot of people that do fan art and stuff, or they'll sell buttons and stickers and blah, 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 blah. And they're unlicensed versions of X-Men and Twilight characters and stuff like that, right? You get a lot of that fan art. And she had what looked like one of those fan art booths. And I liked the look of her art. It was very different than comic book art. And she was standing. She had this like makeup on, but she was like dancing because there was music playing. And I walked up and she kept dancing. She's like, hey. She goes, I hope you don't mind, but this song is a jam. Why did I stop at her booth?
Because she was up.
She was up. She was dancing. She started talking to me. She was dancing before anything. And then as we talked, I stepped back and I looked at her art and I went, you're probably like an art teacher or something, right? She goes, I am. And I went, I can tell because none of the art, save some stickers at the bottom, all this, and some stickers at the bottom, were all original characters and things. And they were all different and cool, and I was like, I can tell because you just have these characters in your head. You're not trying to sell me a comic character. You're not trying to sell me any licensed thing. And she said, I get commissioned sometimes, so that's what these stickers are showing. Like, people are like, can you draw the X-Men? Yes. But I really dug what she was doing. Now, I always look, is this something I can use for a podcast or for a book or something? No. It wasn't right, but I took her car. And I was tempted to buy a couple of things because I was like, she captured me at the lease line. She was personable. She was so fun and so nice. And it was genuine.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Be genuine. Do you remember last year, you and James did it. We have pictures of you guys doing your fingers. And, it made it fun. I'm across the hall and I look down at you guys and I see you and Jim goofing around. It didn't seem like non-inclusive grouping around. That's important. It seemed like, oh, they're having fun and I want to be there.
Yeah.
And then we had Mr. Biscuits, John. We moved him to the front. He was selling tabletop games. And as soon as we put him up there, he's got his mohawk and all that. He wasn't really selling anything at the side. Erica moved him to the front and said, sell some books today. He gets up there, and he's like, and he's a fun guy. He kept dancing.
Yeah.
No music playing, he's just dancing. Guess what it did? He sold so many of the books. And it was because he attracted people. Does that mean everybody in our booth should be dancing all the time? No. But it's kind of like, and once again, apply this to what you do in your situation. Have you ever seen the video Fish?
No.
Okay, look it up on YouTube. It is about the fish place in Portland, where it's a fish market, and the guys there, they throw the fish like across the room.
Yeah.
One mackerel, they throw it, the guys catch it, and people, they have like all these businesses around them, but they have a line. Why do they have a line? Because the fish is so different at theirs from theirs. It's raw fish. They're fishing the same water.
Right.
It's because these guys not only are kind of doing the show, but they're truly having fun. And when you watch this video, it's about the business side of it. And every one of them is like, this is the greatest job. We throw fish at each other and laugh, and that all day. They're like, you're tired at the end of the day, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what they have at curb appeal. It's kind of hard to have curb appeal when you're selling fish, right?
Yeah.
Hey, it smells over here. Oh, there's the fish guy, right? But they make it an experience. They make it fun. If you could do that, you are going to attract people. We could do more of that in Writers Row, but we're busy still figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
And for a lot of the people that are there, like you start there, you're not going to feel comfortable throwing books across. We're not going to do that. It's going to damage your books. But by the end of each con, that's where I saw you and Jim. There's a camaraderie that starts happening. There's a fun that as people walk by, they want to be part of.
Right.
That's what we want. Think about it in your terms, though. I know I'm saying it in con terms, but when I worked at Select Comfort, our team had fun. We were always having fun, but not the customer's here and they feel like they interrupted our fun. It was always like, oh, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Because the key there was try to get them to lay down on the bed. So once they're on the bed and they're laying down, you can talk about what it does and they feel it. Now you've got them hooked. So we would work really hard to have fun with it. Like, we'd lay on the bed and make it go up and down and be like, and if somebody started walking, we'd be like, you ever felt this? And they were like, no, is it doing something different? We'd start talking about it. And they were like, oh, you guys are having fun with this. It's like, yeah, even though I go up and down on this bed 100 times a day, I of course have felt it.
Yeah.
But we made it fun. They had this dumb lease line capture thing. Here's an example of it not being fun. Lease line capture is what we're doing. You're standing at the front of the booth. People walk by and you say to them, hey, what genre do you read?
Right.
Right? That works a lot. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't read. Great. You just started a conversation with me. I love romance. You know what? Let me show you where the romance stuff is. What kind of romance do you like? Conversation started. It's a lease line capture, right? So we were solid at lease line capture. When I'm saying we were great, there were 2,000 stores, I believe. We were always in the top 3.
Oh, wow.
When I started there, they had never cracked the top, 1,500. And it wasn't because of me, but I brought that energy with me. And Melinda, who I had worked with before, came in and immediately, bam, energy. Susie, who was the manager, had been our manager at one point. Susie was great, but she was not fun like that. But she was smart. She knew these guys are fun. And then we brought Jude in, and Jude was brand new. Even when he started, he had a dumb mustache. I'm like, dude, you got to shave that mustache. He's like, no, it looks cool. We're like, not for a salesman. It looks like you're untrustworthy.
Yeah.
He shaved that thing off, and damn, he didn't sell. And we were all like, we believed in what we were selling, and we had fun with it, right? So lease line, we would stand up, but never block it. We'd stand up there, and we'd like be talking and doing stuff, and as people walk by, we'd be like, hey, did you see there's a hat store up there? Look at that weird hat they have. We look up, and they start talking to you. And the next thing you know, they're in there, and they're trying the bed. Okay, that's lease line capture. We do it at Writers Row. Hey, which genre do you like? Just start talking to them friendly. And if they say no, back off. But usually a no doesn't mean no yet.
Yeah.
Okay? So corporate got this idea like, hey, they're doing great with lease line capture. So then they had to try to dictate to us what lease line capture was going to be. Welcome to the world of corporate business. And we own retail. Hey, somebody's succeeding. We're going to tell you now how to do it. So there's this woman who is now head of retail, and she was like, well, you guys are succeeding at lease line. We have a way to do it that is surefire that's going to work. You mean what we're doing?
Because it's working now?
Yeah. Her idea was to take, because they have air bladders inside the mattress. Okay. Her idea was blow one up, bring it up to the lease line with you, and hug it. So when people walk by, they're like, oh, look, that must be comfortable. That must be soft. We're like, oh my God. They're going to think, is that guy J.D. Vance? Is he going to try and do something to that? That was my political joke of the day. No, but we did at that time. We didn't know that's who we'd be making fun of. We would have made so many jokes about it then. But we were like, you're hugging a mattress. Not something that I'm walking by thinking, hey, that looks fun.
No.
It looked weird.
Yeah.
And they made us do it. So, of course, we didn't. But other stores did. And then everyone was like complaining about it, like, this is weird. And then they all stopped doing lease line capture, which is why their numbers started tanking.
Yeah.
And then we went right back to our thing. I'll give you another example. This was something we did that worked. And I'm not saying like, woo, us. I'm saying, woo. I had a team that was always looking at the curb appeal and was always trying to think of what we could do. Because the man was telling us one thing, and it wasn't working the way it should. They were a successful company. They knew what they were doing, but they didn't know this. Right?
Right.
So I think it was our regional manager had an idea. And the way it played out in the beginning was okay. Enough that we went, there's an idea. He wanted people to wear pajamas. It's a bed store. Wear pajamas on Sunday, and it'll attract attention. Just wearing pajamas in the store looks like, oh, look, some wealthy homeless people are now hanging out in your store. But we gripped it, and we said, this is actually not a bad idea. So every Sunday was pajama day. Everybody had to go out and buy nice pajamas, because trust me, we didn't have nice pajamas. Went over to Kohl's and bought, I had like these red flannels I wore. We all looked nice in our pajamas every Sunday. And then it evolved into, the store opens at 11. At 9:30, we would all meet and make pancakes for us in the store. No customers, but when customers came in, you had a staff that was full of pancakes and had been laughing for an hour already.
Yeah.
And it was like our Sundays, which are traditionally the slowest day, blew the company out of the water. What are you doing? We wear pajamas. We have a pancake party before anybody gets here. Alan, who was the regional, came to our pancake party. He was like, can I work here?
Can I be at this store?
Exactly. We were thinking of how to make it appealing. And believe it or not, the energy shift of pajamas and pancakes freaking worked.
Yeah.
We talked about at Writers Row having things like maybe having a coffee thing in there because we all wanted coffee. Erica was right, though. The second we do that, we're dealing with cups, we're dealing with trash, we're dealing with people spilling. We can't do that kind of thing. We can't do a pancake party. We can meet for coffee over here.
Yeah.
Last night, we all sat around afterwards and had this great time. Did it feel like a business thing? Hell no. It felt like a bunch of friends that are like, thank God we're together. And you're new friends. Thank God we're together.
Well, one of the other authors who hasn't done a con before actually asked me, Val and Erica, like, how long have you guys known each other? And we were like, just since I became a Four Horsemen author, that's it. Like,
We've seen each other. This is our third time.
Right. It was just like, but.
Well, my mom's watching. Hi, Mom. This is Chelsea. We're having coffee.
But it's just funny. It's like, no, it just, we have taken the time to like actually talk and get to know each other, share our stories. It makes it more fun.
It does.
To hang out in the booth.
I was going to say, what happens today in the booth? You now know, Paige. Mm-hmm. You didn't know Paige.
No.
You know CK.
Right.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, my interactions, it's funny because I have interactions with most of the authors, and I've done interviews with them, but you know me. I like kind of break it down so that they feel like we're connected. So I have a rapport right away, but now the people that were there have built a rapport. And the people that weren't there are not going to feel outside because the whole group gets along and they immediately get pulled in.
Right.
It works. And energy, now we have great energy yesterday. Today is going to be even better energy. I can't wait.
Me either. I'm really excited.
I love when we do the panels because I keep throwing people together that have never done these together. Sometimes they don't know. They're like, oh, what's this one going to be about? Have you noticed? I have no hand in it. Even though I could be down there and directing it.
Yeah.
I try to stay out of it. I want you guys to figure it out because as soon as you do, you're now a team. You've figured it out. I trust all of you. You're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be safe. Because if I had a team that was like, we're all introverted and we're going to sit there and stare at each other, I'll come and host it.
Yeah.
Molly will come and host it.
Well, it's one of those things like the very first time doing PopCon, I would absolutely not have felt comfortable at all.
Right, just going down and doing
it. I needed to know someone was going to be moderating.
Right.
But this time it's kind of like, I can figure out something to talk about and we can at least start a conversation and we can make this happen. You know, like.
It's true with, and all of that is marketing, by the way. Everything is marketing. Marketing is your interaction and trying to reach a goal. That's really all it is. When you're doing a panel, there are goals involved there. Awareness, selling something, signing up for a newsletter. We keep telling people to vote. We have a thing like, hey, you can register to vote. And it's not owned by Elon Musk, who is taking your identification. This is a safe play to check if your voter registration is working. That's one of our goals, is to let people know, hey, you can vote and you can register here and it's safe.
Right.
Not being political about it. We're just letting people know. Those panels, being in those situations where you have a shared experience, it grows you as a group, and it binds you. You didn't know, okay, Jim's been at the last year, Jim Wilder. You didn't know Jim at all. We knew Jim. But now, you and Jim are friends.
Yeah.
If Jim were to walk in today, you'd be like, oh my gosh, my buddy.
Yeah.
And you guys would immediately start having the connection, and people walking by would feel the connection. That's how it works. And if you're an individual, you're alone, maybe you have to build that connection with customers. Because believe me, they feel it.
Yeah.
I have people, now I'm hardly in the booth, right?
Yeah.
I'm managing 100 things. There were people that approached me yesterday. There were 3, I think, that had been at panels I did at Indy.
Okay.
I bet you don't remember me. There were 20 people in the room.
Yeah.
Crazily enough, if they interacted with me, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize them. But as soon as like the one person started talking to me and I went, are you still doing your show? They lit up. They said, I am. They said, I took your advice. I started a Patreon. I was like, oh my God. And what are you giving the customer as like your value? And they said, well, you said I should do this one thing, which is something that I never would do as a value thing, because it's a religious person. And they were like, I have all these scripture things. And I said, why don't you use that on your Patreon? People sign up. If that's what they're into with you, why don't you, they're just sitting there. Why don't you give away one when they sign up every month, give one away? Turns out that's what they've done since Indie PopCon. And they said, I have subscribers. I had 0 for like 5 years, and now I have like 20.
Well, good. I'm glad.
What?
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
I have none. So that's amazing. With my mom, she's watching.
Well, that's one of those things that I thought about. Like, it'd be nice to do a Patreon, but I don't exactly know what I would offer on it. You know.
Great.
So,
Let me address that, because a couple of things I think everybody should have that's a creator is they should have a newsletter. 100%. We started talking about that yesterday. We're not going to talk about it today because I've said it a million times, so I'm going to do it. I'll do a feature about it. We'll do a thing all about newsletters. Super important. The other thing that I think, when you have done it for a while, like, don't jump in if you've never done anything, because nobody knows. But you have a few books out that, excuse me, not COVID, tickle. You have a few books out, right? So now you're in a perfect position to start a Patreon. I think people should have a Patreon. Or you could do Ko-fi or Buy Me Coffee. And what you want to do is, number one, keep it simple. Okay? The reason you want to have one is you now have people that like what you do. They are waiting between books to read what you do. When you do your newsletter, you give away like a free chapter or flash fiction. They like that, right? What we put in the newsletter we can talk about another time. But then you have this, you set up a Patreon. We'll go with that. You want to figure out what is unique to you that you can add value to your customer. Okay? So for Chelsea, one thing that I would do is keep it simple. Maybe make like one $5 tier. Because people get excited. I'll do it 5 and a 10 and a 20 and 100. Because I might get that 100. I would rather have people coming in all day long at the $5 tier. Because number one, they're not going to cancel a $5 tier at the end of the month. They're going to hang on and let it just float until they finally go, I never look at this. Maybe I should get rid of it. But you've got $100, $200 before that point. And actually, they might look at it and go, and then they look at what you've been posting and they go, oh, this is worth it.
Right.
Okay? Then what I would do, I would make it simple. One $5 tier. Don't do the $1 tier and $5 tier. Like, oh, well, they're tipping me. Don't do it. Because they're not. Okay? $5 tier, it's a legit amount. Then you want to think, what value can I give them at my Patreon? So with our podcast network, what we did was we would post for free all the shows. For you, I would say blog posts for free.
Okay.
Okay, so you can get stuff for free on the Patreon. Subscribe to me on my Patreon. I put blog posts on there. Great. And announcements when something new is happening. Great. Kind of like a newsletter. But then, the ones that are paying, they have to get something more. And here's a secret that people don't understand about this. Most people don't want you to have to do more work. They're trying to support you on it. So people be like, well, I'll give away a t-shirt and I'll write a book for them. No. But you could do something simple. Everybody that subscribes to the $5 tier, Friday nights I do on my Discord. They get a code to my Discord, and I do a watch party. We watch Love Boat. They get to watch Love Boat with me, and we joke around. But it's only for Patreon subscribers, and it's on here. You have added a value to them that connects them to you. Okay? Or Sarah Cito did a great one. She only did it once, and I'm going to harp on her to do it more. Sarah was usually in here, not here today. She did a Twitch stream where she did live writing on Twitch. The screen was just her computer screen.
Yeah.
And she said, I need a prompt. She's like, give me a location. And people wrote locations. So I was like, oh, I like that one. She started, it was a dark night, blah, blah, blah. And then she added this, blah, 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 blah. See, the map light, did you see the balloons?
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I sat and watched a screen unfolding flash fiction for about 45 minutes. I was captivated because I was seeing her brain working.
Right.
Now, she did it for free because she was testing it. I told her immediately, do this more, but make it one of your tiers.
Okay.
Not one of your tiers, but make that a value thing. Once a month, I'm going to do a writing thing on it. You could do that. Do a flash fiction. Harlan Ellison, one of my favorite authors, used to do a thing called, he had a book called Harlan Under Glass that I don't know if it ever came out. But what he would do is just this. He would go for a book signing. He would find a bookstore that had a nice big front window, and he would come in to do a book signing, and he would sit at the front with his typewriter in the window, and he would just write. So it was coming off things people were saying, he was getting prompts, but he just did it in front of the audience. Now, this was pre-Patreon and all that, so the idea then was, we're going to take these, edit them, put out books.
Yeah.
Even though Harlan wasn't thinking that in the beginning, his people were like, wait a minute. And very prolific, really interesting writer, right? I think so, obviously. I love it. Now, the new Harlan Under Glass is Chelsea Under Glass. You are sitting at your screen and you're writing, and people are seeing it happen live. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It is exciting for people that are fans, and it might make new fans, but you make it so that it's at the $5 tier. This is one of the things you get. Another thing you could do, and it doesn't, you're not eating up your world. You take an hour on a Friday night once a month to interact with your audience, and you're talking to them while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Another one you can do, I have a friend that has a podcast he was doing great, right? And they were doing YouTube stuff, they were doing all this live stuff. They switched all of it off and they went to just Discord. Okay? And they have a thing on their Patreon at the $5 tier. You get a code to the Discord. So all this other stuff they're doing, that went away. It all switched to Discord. But the thing you get for the $5, one thing, is their live thing they were doing before is now Friday nights, every Friday night, they do a live Q&A hang session with these podcasters every Friday night.
That's fun.
And Gordo is a lot of fun in there. I don't subscribe. I don't get to go in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I do. He gives me the code.
Right. But
You have friends. You can give friends your code. But at the same time, I did pay for a couple of months of it so I could go in and like interact, and I really enjoyed it. The problem is when you deal with 1,000 people that have these, I can't spend $5,000 a month on these stupid things because it will eat my life, and there's not enough time in the day. But I showed support, and I got to go in, and it was a blast. It added value.
yeah.
It wasn't just like, do this and get this one free chapter. It was, he's interacting with you.
Right.
They're watching a TV show, whether it applies or not.
I think that that's really important for like doing the live and making it like a regular thing, because I think that's what I've been struggling. I don't even want to create it because I don't want to guarantee that I'm going to be creating content for that, and it's more work to add to my plate. But I like the idea of like doing a live, like
Doing a live thing, yeah.
Yeah, because,
putting it on your calendar. Pour Over became something I put on the calendar.
right. Just having it on the calendar, and maybe I write flash fiction, or maybe I'm just, rewatching Buffy, and if you want to watch with me and chat about it, then we can do that,
So here's another idea for you, and I give this to authors, creators, anybody. You can create an unedited podcast that is the thing you give away. Don't worry about putting it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, because frankly, that's another business. You're building another business. You don't need that. Your business is this Patreon. You want to give your customers value of some sort, right? So, I'm Chelsea. I say I'm gonna do this unedited, so I don't have. All I have to do is record it, maybe clip the top and the back, just to get the, okay, you ready? Clipped off. It will take you 2 minutes, and then you just upload it, right?
Yeah.
It's not live, okay? So now you could batch them. You could just do interviews or conversations, make them 10 minutes. I do a thing, which you have been on, called 3 questions. Do that. Do 3 questions. Grab every author. You've got 100 authors in 4 Horsemen. They will do it with you.
Yeah.
And you say, I want you to come on. You're going to just answer 3 questions. We're going to have a little conversation, get to know each other a little bit. And it's going on my Patreon. You get to pick your book. They'll go, great. Cool. You now have content that you're not putting anywhere else. It's only living on your Patreon.
Right.
$5 tier, I get these fun little interviews. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
You can use the same thing for your newsletter if you're like, well, you know what, but I prefer it here. I like to do those for the newsletter, and then I do a longer interview for the Patreon. For our company, we used our Patreon. I would tell the podcasters once a year you have to do your show, do an exclusive show just for our Patreon. But it doesn't have to be your normal show. We're a Superman podcast. Great. We're going to do one show of our thing, because we all like horror, too. We're going to play horror trivia. And it only goes on the Patreon for Southgate Media Group. How fun is that, right?
Yeah.
Would you pay for that? I would. Because I'm not getting that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Did it take any effort? No. A bunch of buddies sat around and played horror trivia.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do on a Patreon. You don't want to add to your workload. You want to map it out. And if it's once a month, if you're only going to do that once a month, that's fine too. I only do for the last Friday of the month, all the Patreon subscribers get this. They won't think twice about it.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to build that audience quickly? No. It takes a bit. But you already have a newsletter. You now have permission to sell to people. You can say, here's what's going on my Patreon, and you can only get this here. There's the value. These are people that are interested in you and want to buy from you. Guess what? You're going to pick up some subscribers.
Right.
There you go. All right. It's almost 9. Thank you for watching. I guess we could be literal. Mom, thank you for watching. And we've got to go over to PopCon Louisville. We've got panels today. We've got all sorts of stuff. Watch the Writers Row Facebook page. We've got exclusive interviews. See? 3 questions and full interviews on the Writers Row Facebook page, on the newsletter for 4 Horsemen, on the newsletter for Southgate Media Group. All those places. We put them everywhere. Not everywhere, only those places, because that's where we want you to go. Remember that when you're designing your thing. Where do you want them to go? That's where you put it. You don't take people that are needing water and put the water on every corner. If you have a place they can get the water and it's gonna add value, put it where you want them to go, and they will come and they'll get the water and they got nourished and you got your customers.
Yep. Makes sense.
It's simple. Yeah. Don't exclude people. Do judge a book by its cover, and don't judge a book by its cover. All right. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you for joining me. This was fun.
Yes.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. We will see you next Saturday.